So you're tired of playing on a console and you want to build yourself a PC, but I can't because there's no video cards available, and if they are, they're like four, five, six, $700, $1,000. Well, today we're going to show you how to build a budget gaming PC for under $500 on Game Over. If you like what you see, remember, clickety click, 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 clickety click, click the button below where it says subscribe and make us part of your weekly routine. Welcome to today's show, and this is the weekend. Woo, woo, woo. Anyways, we are going to be taking a look at building a couple of budget PCs today. Now, we're not going to have anything that is killer, so to say, and nothing that's going to definitely come in price point wise in comparison with a console system. If you had $500 and you could score yourself a Xbox or a new PlayStation, you might do that. However, the scalpers are really hoarding those as well. So you also might want to be in the gaming scene on the PC. There's a lot of reasons why to game on a PC. We'll talk about that on another episode, but there's a lot of games out there and a lot of cheap games out there on the Steam store, on the Epic Games store. Epic Games has a free game every week. When you want to buy a Steam code, you can buy it either from Steam or you can search like Kinguin or some other locations and you can buy games for pennies on the dollar. So gaming on a PC might give you some advantages to over gaming on a console, especially since the fact that you put it together and you get to learn how to do it as well. So with that being said, we're going to take a look at two systems today. We're going to look at an AMD platform, and we're also going to look at an Intel platform, and then we're going to compare the two of them together and see which one is going to give you a bigger bang for your buck. To get things rolling, we're going to start off taking a look at 6 basic components. Those are the ones we're going to purchase together for our cheapo value budget gaming PC. To start things off, we're going to take a look at a CPU with a GPU built into it. The second item we're going to grab is a motherboard for today. Moving along, we're also going to make sure that we have plenty of memory, and we're going to make sure that we've got good storage for our Windows operating system and the games that we want to run on it. We're going to put it all together into a case. And lastly, we're going to add a power supply to power it for today and for tomorrow so that if we want to go with upgrades, we can, and it's going to hold us in the future as well. Let's get started. Putting your PC together entails getting the right parts that are going to work together. One of the places I like to go to is the PC Parts Picker right here. Now, the PC Parts Picker lets you go in and select components to build a PC, and it tells you about them being compatible or not compatible, and it works really well. The problem with PC Parts Picker is when you look for a product, it's going to have you going all over the place. You can look for different things in different places. So if we take a look at a CPU, say, and we want to take a look at the Intel Ryzen 5 3600, it brings us into this section where we have several different options to buy the AMD Ryzen 5 3600 series chip. If you take a look, we've got Newegg, we've got Best Buy, we've got Adorama, we've got Amazon. Now remember, if you buy from Amazon, it works really well if you have Prime. If you don't have Prime, you're going to be spending some extra money or extra time waiting for your parts to come in. You also want to save a few dollars here and there, so you could chase the value. And what I mean by chase the value is you can go and look for the absolute best price on every single item from 6 or 7 different vendors if you want. Now, if your time is worth the 15 or 20 bucks you might save by doing that, that's the avenue you should follow. But If you just want a nice convenient package, you can take a look at a couple of different vendors and just go for it and try to find what you have. Today, we're going to be going with the AMD Ryzen 3 3200G. Now, the G means that it has a GPU built into the CPU. If you want to try to find something like a RTX 2060, you're going to probably pay $700 or $800 for that. A GTX 750 is well over $100, and everything in between is just all over the place, whether it be AMD or whether it be NVIDIA. The whole issue about having a video card right now is insane. We did a show for that one. So let's jump in and let's build this thing. We are going to Newegg to take a look at all this. When I did the research for this project, I was chasing the value and I had to go to different places, but then it all came back into Newegg. I could get everything I wanted from one supplier at a good cost, coming in well under $500 for the system. I didn't have to worry about having an Amazon account. I didn't have to wait for shipments coming from all sorts of different places. Everything was going to come together in one nice, tidy package. And here's how we ordered it. The first component we're going to get is the CPU chip. We're going with the AMD Ryzen 3 3200G. It's a 4-core processor. Now, that's not the best in this day and age, I'll give you that, but it's at a price point where we can start. Now, we're going to be building this with two things in mind. One, I want to be able to game. Not super high-end gaming at 4K, but I just want to be able to play. I want to be able to play things like Fortnite and Minecraft and other games that I can get on the Steam store or the Epic Games Store, and I want to have fun while I'm doing it. But I also want to be able to upgrade this later on in the future. I don't want to be locked into something that's not going to have any upgrade path. So that's why we're going with this CPU. It's only $129. It comes with a GPU built into it, and I can swap this out later on for a better CPU, depending on what kind of motherboard I get. And let's take a look at that next. For the motherboard, I selected an ASRock B450M motherboard. And the reason I went with a 450 instead of a 300 series was because I can easily upgrade this in the future. If I want to, I can pull that CPU chip out and I can dump in a Ryzen 5 3600. And then I could also throw in a GPU later on, and I'll have a really, really good gaming machine that'll be up to par with some of the other things that are out there on the market, and I could play them at a higher end. Not, again, the absolute best, but I'm getting there. I just want to make sure that I can have that upgrade path so that when I want a game later on, I can expand this machine. Now, this board comes with 2 slots for memory. It's a decent motherboard. It's at a low price, and it's going to get me into the goal that I have, and that is to be able to play games for under $500. Again, we're not going for big and bold. We're going for the fact that we just want to be able to play PC games on a PC without having to buy a separate GPU. So we need some memory. Let's talk about RAM, baby. Let's talk about you and me. We got some memory and we are gonna get some RAM there. Okay, so we're gonna get some G.Skill Ripjaws. That's right, we're gonna go with 16 gigs of RAM. We're gonna pony up for that extra memory because we want this thing to run now. We want it to run in the future. We're gonna go with some DDR4 3200 Ripjaw memory. We're gonna drop 2 of those in there instead of dropping 2 4s in there, because we all know that when you drop 2 4s in there, we got to pull them out later on, and then they're good for nothing. Make a couple of keychains or something like that. So we're going to pony up right now up front, spend the $85 and go with the memory at 16 gigs. When we look at a storage solution, we got a couple of different options. We can either go with a regular hard drive, we could go with a SSD in a SATA version, or we could go with an M2 SSD as well. We could also do a combination of the two. If we really wanted to, we could get a really small SSD, like a 128 gig M2. We could just put Windows on it, and then we could go ahead and get like a 500 gig hard drive and put it in there, and that'll be another $20, $25. So you're probably figuring about $55, $60 if you were to have those 2 items. Instead, we're just gonna go straight for speed. We're gonna drop $66 on this. We're gonna go with a 512 gig M2 SSD. We're going to snap it into the motherboard, and it's going to give us the place to store Windows and to put all of our games, and it's going to be rocking fast. Now, I know there's all sorts of different types of SSDs. You can get ones with DRAM controllers and not and everything, but this is going to run fast. And again, we're looking for a budget machine here to be able to play games on. So I got my motherboard, I got my CPU, I got my memory, I got my storage, but I got to put it in a case. So we're going to go with a DIY PC case. Now this is kind of neat because it's orange. It gives you this cool glow. I'm not all about the RGB. That is a whole nother culture out there. And if that's what you're into, that's what you're into. That's what you want to spend your money on. That's what you spend your money on. It's all up to you. Me, personally, I'm just not into it. I want it to work good. Other people, this is their creativity. This is what they really put their heart and soul into. So we're going for a budget case that's going to look somewhat cool. It's going to have a glass panel on the side so we can see inside. And this comes with 2 fans as well. It goes as a fan in the back pulling cool air in and a fan in the front pushing the hot air out. So it's coming with 2 fans. It's a case, it lights up, it's got a clear side to it, and it's only $39 right now. So that's what we're going to stick this PC into. We got everything into the case, and now we got to power this thing. So we're going to go with an EVGA 600 watt power supply. We're going to pick that up for $44.99, basically $45. And we're getting that also through Newegg. And that's going to give us some power for right now. And it's going to give us power in the future. When we do want to run a GPU in there, it's going to provide all the power that we need and sustain all the equipment that we have inside of our case. So we put it all together. We've got a case. We've got a power supply. We've got a motherboard. We've got a CPU. We've got RAM. We've got storage. We are ready to build this thing together. But first we got to ship it, right? And in order to ship it, we got to pay for it. And that's the magic moment right here. The magic moment. No, we're not at Disneyland. This is a computer tech magic moment. And here's what I'm going to do on my big reveal. Are you ready? Take a guess at what this thing is going to cost us. I told you we would come in well under $500. And here we go. Look at that. We come in at $455.83. That's free shipping in there. That's warranty and service. That's taxes. That's the whole 9 yards. That is delivered to our door. $455.83 for our Ryzen AMD Super Gaming Cheapo Special. That's right. But it's going to play good. It's going to play okay. You know, everybody's out there, oh, I got to spend $1,000 on a gaming machine. And maybe someday, yes. I spend $500 now. A video card alone is going to run you $500 right now. So you build this puppy, put it all together, play some games, and if and when the market changes or you're able to score that sweet deal on eBay or Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace and pick yourself up a used GPU at a screaming price, well, then you'll just throw that in here and it will be even more fast. So let's go and take a look at what our Intel system has for us as far as our budget build. So basically, we're going to use most of the same components. The only thing we're going to really swap out is going to be the motherboard and the CPU. We're still going to use the same Ripjaws memory, the same M2 SSD, the same power supply, and the same case. But we're just going to grab a different motherboard and a different CPU, and we're going to take a look at the Intel platform right now. For our Intel CPU, we're going to go with the Core i5 10th generation. We're going to go with the 1040 Comet Lake. Now, this is a 6-core processor opposed to a 4-core processor. There's a couple of reasons why you may want to go with this as opposed to the Ryzen, but there's also some reasons you might want to go with the Ryzen. We're going to take a look at some benchmarks in just a few minutes, but this has built-in video as well. Unfortunately, it is only the Intel UHD Graphics 630 built-in video. Again, I'm going to show you some specs and I'm going to show you some benchmarks, and you're going to have to make that deciding factor for yourself. We're staying with the ASRock series, and this time we're going to go to the H410 motherboard. Again, a 400. This is an LGA 1200 socket, so it's going to fit our Intel processor just fine. Again, 2 memory slots, fully compatible with what we got, fully compatible with the memory and everything else. Just like the other motherboard, it's basically the same version, except this is the Intel set for it. Both motherboards have built-in video support, and with a GPU inside of the CPU, it's going to take advantage of that. Now, the Ryzen chip is going to have the Vega 8 series video processor in it. That's what's going to give us our graphics. Both motherboards have built-in support for onboard video, and that's coming inside of the GPU. That's actually part of the CPU. Now, if you take a look, you'll see that both motherboards support not only a HDMI output, but a VGA output and a DVI output as well. So you're covered in almost any kind of monitor that you get. Alrighty, let's take a look. Are you ready for our cheapo Intel system? Let's take a look and see what the numbers give us, baby. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Whoop, whoop, 487. We are coming in underneath that $500 price point again. 487 for our Intel build. And that's the 10th generation Intel i5. Let's take a look at comparing the two of them in two different ways. Now let's take a look at some specs and let's take into the good stuff, you know, the benchmarks. So let's take a look at the built-in video output. Let's look at the GPUs in the 3200 on the Ryzen series and the 10400 on the Intel series. As you can see, the RX Vega 8 totally beats the Intel chipset. That's right. The Vega 8 totally puts to rest the 630 by 113%. We've got a speed ranking of 362 on the Intel, and we've got a speed ranking of 236 on the Vega 8. So the winner, GPU dinner, whoop, goes to the Ryzen Vega 8 as far as GPU output. When we put the CPUs head to head, we can see clearly that the AMD falls second hand to the Intel 10400. The Intel 10400 is rated at 25% better. If you take a look at that, we've got a score of 60 versus a score of 307 on the benchmark. Now, you got to remember a couple of things here. The 10400 is a much, much newer chipset. This processor is going to work a lot better if you drop a new GPU card into this machine in the future. You're set. Right now, the 630 chipset inside of the 10400's not going to give you the kind of quality that you really want for gaming. You really want right now, if you're coming in under $500 on our cheapo build system, you want to go with that AMD Ryzen 3. It's going to give you better graphics. It's going to give you better frame rate. It's going to give you a better all gaming. So in a nutshell, here's what we got. We got an AMD chip right here. This is an AMD Ryzen 3. This has built-in Vega 8. The video supersedes the Intel chipset, but the Intel processor is much, much better over the Ryzen processor. So here we got great video, not so good CPU, and here we got good CPU and not great video. So you got to figure out, where do you want to go? If you want to game today and you're like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'll buy a new gaming system in a year or two, go with the AMD. It's going to give you more bang for your buck at this very moment. You'll be able to put it together and start playing right away. I think you'll be very unhappy with the Intel 630 video on the i5 chip. However, if you had an old GPU laying around that was going to be better than the Vega 8, I would definitely go with the Intel series and slap that GPU in there. Or if you found a magic card somewhere under $300 or $200 or something like that, don't go getting a 710 or a 730. Those really aren't gaming. Our budget PC gaming winner goes to AMD. We want to go with the Ryzen 3 processor, 3200G, built-in GPU, under $500, coming in at about 455 bucks, and that will get you gaming today. Thank you for letting us be part of your world today. And remember, always tune in weekly to Game Over.